Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the Tata Steel Masters in 2023. So we're now in the round 10 of this beautiful chess event and we're starting now this round with the beautiful chess prodigy derby from India. We have here Gukesh versus Praggnanandhaa. Really wild things happened in this game. We had really many ups and downs, which is of course understandable. These are really young players. There's always room for improvement, but these guys can play. They always produce something new. They always produce wild ideas in the opening stage. So as I said, be prepared. This was really a beautiful tactical battle. Don't expect here an easy draw because probably both of them wanted to win the game. Both of them, I think, wanted to be the pride of India because I think India has to be really proud of their grandmasters. We have, of course, here also Arjun Erigaisi playing this super event. So as I said, India has really a chess bright future. But as I said, still they're young. Gukesh is only 16 years old. Praggnanandhaa is only 17 years old. When we now add their ages combined, they have 33 years, and Magnus Carlsen, for instance, is 32 years old. So as I said, this derby we'll see now many times in the future. In the next couple of years, I think Gukesh and Praggnanandhaa will of course dominate the chessboard. So let's see now what happened. The really wild things happened. As I said, Gukesh opened with the move c4. Praggnanandhaa's response was the move c5. We have now the symmetrical English opening. After knight to f3, knight to f6, knight to c3, we have knight to c6. We have now the 4 knights variation of the English opening. So here d4. Gukesh breaks the center immediately. After c takes d4, knight to d4, e6 by Praggnanandhaa. He's trying to break and enter here with the move d5. Gukesh prevents this d5 method with a prophylactic move a3. He wants to build the so-called Maroczy bind. He's trying to play c4, e4. In order to make that happen, you have to prevent bishop to b4. If the bishop to b4 happens, then you could be vulnerable a little bit around the square e4. The knight on c3 could be overloaded to the defense of e4, so that's why a3 is so far a good prophylactic idea here by Gukesh. So bishop to e7. Now comes the Maroczy bind structure here by Gukesh. We have kingside castling by Praggu, and now after move knight to f3 here again. The same idea. Here Gukesh is again not allowing Praggu to break and enter here with move d5. Here Praggu, develops simply the queen to a5. It's of course also a threat to pick up the pawn on e4, so that's why you have to counterplay this idea with bishop to d2. In the continuation now queen to h5, and you see now Praggu rerouted the queen here really on a beautiful active square, and the knight is now also very dangerous. Now the queen is still connected to the d5 square, so now in the next couple of moves we can really expect finally the d5 breakthrough motif. So now Gukesh makes a huge choice. He makes, I think, a beautiful choice. For the beauty of the game, he played maybe a slightly worse continuation, which is maybe not even the suggested move by the top engines, but I really loved his choice because here he basically said, I want to now play really an open tactical battle against my fellow Praggu. Here he played a beautiful rook to g1, preparing g4 immediately, and this move g4 is also somehow connected to the d5 square because in the continuation, as we said, black is trying to get the d5 breakthrough. With the move g4, the knight could be maybe deflected from the square d5, so that's why really a wild choice here by Gukesh, which is of course creating now a really wild position because the king is still in the center. We have to say you have lost your privilege of castling towards the king side, and even if you castle queen side, if you manage somehow to castle queen side, then of course you're already vulnerable. There are many light square weaknesses, so it's really a wild line here that Gukesh played. Of course, a much better continuation would have been the normal bishop to e2. There are always some discovered threats against the queen, so this would be maybe the more solid way. But rook to g1 creates now really huge tactical advantage. So in the continuation, Praggu continues with his plan. d5. That's the move that he wanted to play in the first place. We have now the move g4, and now we have this deflection motif, knight to g4. Okay, you took your pawn, but now you're a little bit vulnerable here also in the center. What actually doesn't bother so much, I think, Praggu, even if he loses some pawns in the center. As we said, white king is stuck in the center, so that's why the rook could be included into the game through the e-file. So it doesn't matter if black even loses every pawn now in the center, even if white grabs 2 or 3 pawns, it doesn't matter. Black wants to just open the position in front of the king, and basically white wants to do the same. White wants to also open somehow the files against the king, and I think from white's perspective, mission accomplished. At least the g file is open. At least we have somewhere now to attack the position. So in the continuation now, c takes d5, played by Gukesh. We have e takes d5, knight to d5. Of course, you don't want to pick up this pawn with the pawn, then of course the e file is immediately open, so you don't want to play the game like this. So that's why knight to d5. In the continuation, bishop to c5, and you see now the pawn on f2 is hanging. The pawn on f2 is now a structural weakness, but Gukesh prepared here a wild tactical shot with the move queen to e2. It seems so that you could maybe take knight takes f2, but look at this, knight to f6 is winning the game on spot. You have this royal fork here against the king and the queen. You cannot take out the knight on f6 because of the beautiful activity of the rook on the g file. The same thing happens if you play bishop to f2. Then we play queen takes f2. We can even sacrifice the queen here. Knight takes f2, and now again the royal fork here on f6 loses the game on spot here for black. So after move queen to e2, of course Praggnanandhaa is not falling for this. He plays f5. Now there is at least the connection of the rook to the square f6. Now knight to f6 is not working anymore. The tactic is not working because the rook is connected to the f6 square. In the continuation, we have now knight to f4 by Gukesh, and after queen to f7, now comes the first critical moment in the game. Here Gukesh played rook to g2, and this was now his first mistake. So far, I think he played an outstanding opening line. Really a wild tactical line, which could have led, I think, into a beautiful sharp tactical game. But that rook to g2 is now a huge mistake because you don't have to even protect your pawn on f2. Now I think queenside castling would be a good choice here for white. Nothing spectacular also for black here because bishop to f2 is simply not working. Rook takes g4 leads into complications. You lose simply also the bishop on f2. If you play now knight to f2, the problem is now this sequence. Queen to b5 is attacking the bishop, but also bishop to c4 is a huge threat, and you can even lose the queen here on spot. So it's really not working. So this is not a good tactic. So as I said, queenside castling is a good opportunity now in this particular position. Even if you play queen to a2, if you try to sneak in somehow with the queen, look at this, queen to b5 again with the same motif. You can play maybe one check, king to c2, and as I said, now the queen gets even trapped because after queen to a2, again bishop to c4 is our light motif here, which is of course nothing spectacular here for black. So queenside castling was the way to go. Of course, black has some other chances. Knight to d4 is a good chance. Knight to e5. These are opportunities. So as I said, these are good chances for black. But as I said, white should have simply castled because after rook to g2 here from this point on, Praggnanandhaa has, I think, I'll not say immediately a winning game, but a much better continuation here. Praggnanandhaa should have played a simple f takes e4, and there's simply not so much that can be done now for black. For white. Even if you play here knight to g5, then queen to f5 is actually locking the knight. You cannot even step back here to h3 because knight to d4 is going to happen. The knight is coming on f3. The e file will be probably get open. You're getting destroyed probably on the e file, so this is not working. In order to somehow prolong the game after knight to g5 and queen to f5, you have to, I think, even sacrifice the rook for the exchange. Queen to g4, and here queen to g4 is now, of course, a much better continuation. So this is not working. So f takes e4 is immediately winning. Even if white retreats here to g1, again a knight to e5 is, for instance, a beautiful move. Then knight to f3 is going to happen. Look at this. We have here again this weak f2 pawn. So it's simply not working. Really, this was the way to go. This would be, I think, the completely winning continuation here for Praggnanandhaa. But Praggnanandhaa, instead of f takes e4, plays now a necessary move, queen to e7, and this gives now here Gukesh the opportunity to get back into the game. So Gukesh had the winning position, then Praggnanandhaa had the winning position, and now Gukesh is taking over again in the game because here the continuation after queen to e7, now here Gukesh plays the correct choice. He plays now the move e5. He simplifies the game. He's locking now the files in front of his king because, of course, again, you don't want to play e takes f5 because look at this, bishop to f5 is going to happen. Now queenside castling is not so good anymore because here the bishop is slicing this diagonal. You're getting destroyed probably on the c file somewhere with some rook activity. So this is again not working here for for white. So that's why e5 locks simply more files, more diagonals. It gives us here from white's perspective extra time to secure the king by calcing. After queenside calcing, bishop to d6 was played now, bishop to c3. Now Gukesh plays the most natural moves. He's regrouping. He has now great activity. Although black is up a pawn, but in these types of positions when the kings are on opposite sides, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is, of course, open files, open diagonals, and that's exactly what Gukesh has accomplished here. Although, as we said, Praggnanandhaa had a better continuation for sure. So after move bishop to c3, knight to f3 was played by Praggnanandhaa. We have queen to f3, and now bishop to e6. You have to now bring your more pieces into the game. And here in the continuation now, h3 was played by Gukesh, which is of course a good choice. You're kicking away the knight, although probably here maybe knight to e6 was more accurate. You pick up the bishop, which is controlling the light course against the king. Then maybe the later stage of course bishop to c4 is going to happen. Look at this, we have also the opportunity to play h3, rook g7 and similar stuff. So in my opinion, this would be a much better continuation here again for white. So after move h3 that Gukesh played, I think Praggnanandhaa has to play now bishop to f4. This was the only way to somehow stay in the game. After bishop to f4 and queen to f4, now you play knight to f6. Still, this is of course far away from a good defense for black. Still, white should be much better, especially because of this beautiful dark square activity here, dark square bishop activity. The rook is targeting this g7, the queen will come into the game, the bishop will come into the game, will activate also this rook here. So it's, I think, simply too much pressure against black's king. But as I said, at least you're defending the position somehow. But after move h3 that Gukesh played, now Praggnanandhaa plays a strange move. He plays now the move bishop to e5, and what he probably was hoping for is that Gukesh maybe makes a mistake with h takes g4, because after h takes g4, f takes g4 is now losing the piece. The queen has to step back and you lose the knight on f4, and then I think black should be here slightly better. But of course Gukesh now plays the correct choice. He plays knight to e6, and after queen to e6 now h takes g4. Praggnanandhaa simply took, bishop takes c3, but now after b takes c3, okay, Praggnanandhaa managed to create some structural weaknesses in front of white's king, but this is not working because you don't have a check. If this sequence would end maybe with a check by black against white's king, maybe then you have extra time to regroup, maybe you have extra time to get more pieces into the game. But now this is not working. This is simply a bad continuation. Here Praggnanandhaa tried rook from a to d8, and here I think the game is splashed, the attack by black is splashed, and here of course white should be much better. So after rook to d8, here Gukesh simply took, g takes f5, and for instance there is a really wild line. If black plays queen to a2, it doesn't matter. Actually, there is even a beautiful tactical shot, rook to g7. Black cannot escape from any of this in a different way. You would love, of course, to come with the queen here. You would love maybe to even try perpetuals, but look at this. After rook to g7, king takes g7, we play now queen to g3 check. If you step back, we'll play simply here queen to e5. You have to now play king to g8, and now there is a beautiful stunning move, bishop to c4, queen to c4, and now the rook is coming into the game. You're getting checkmated for sure. You can just maybe prolong the game, but now this is really game over. So really nothing can be done. After g takes f5, here rook takes d1 was played by Praggnanandhaa. Gukesh simply took, also queen to d1, queen to a2. Again, this motif trying to do some perpetuals, maybe force a draw, but now bishop to d3, rook to e8, rook to g4. There is also the threat, of course, of bishop to c4. In the continuation, queen to a3, king to d2, and after check, queen to c2. Here Gukesh is hoping now to simplify the game by trading off the queens, going into a favorable endgame, because there is also the threat of f6. f6 is very dangerous, rook to g7, bishop to c4, and similar ideas again. So queen to b6 with the idea to hit the pawn on f2. In the continuation, we have now first a check. After king to h8, rook to d4, cutting off here the diagonal. Very good move here by Gukesh. Queen to h6, a check. Queen to c2, after queen to h2, now the queen is coming into the game, and now slowly but surely here Gukesh is building sort of a mating net. Black can just prolong the game by delivering some checks. That's exactly what happened. King to f2, but now after king to b3. No good checks are possible, of course. Rook to g8, bishop to c4, hitting the rook, rook to b8, and now after queen to e7, again with the preparation to somehow include the rook maybe on the g file, on the h file. Here the continue. h5 was played by Praggu. Queen to g5, after queen to f3, the rook to h4, and after queen to d1, king to b2. In this position, Praggu resigned. So there is simply no good check. You just can play maybe queen to e2, queen to d2, just sacrificing the queen, prolong the game, but nothing is working here. You're getting checkmated here on h5 for sure. So incredible game. I'm a little bit sad that it had so many mistakes. I would really love to see really a more aggressive tactical battle between these two prodigies. You saw Gukesh made a mistake, then afterwards Praggu made the mistake, then Gukesh took over, found these tactical sequences in the game. But still, of course, as I said also in the beginning, they have really room for improvement, but these are really the most talented kids in the world. We should really support them. It doesn't matter if you lose one game, if you maybe lose in 1, 2, 3 games, because we have seen in the beginning of this tournament, Praggnanandhaa was even, in my opinion, one of the favorites to win the event because he started really in a beautiful way. Now he lost some games. But still, I think, as I said, he will be really one of the best players in the world for sure. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas for sure of the 4 nights variation of the English Opening. If you want to see some other great games that we have covered so far, check out also my analysis before and some other great games. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.